Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's webinar on workflows called Superflow. I'm delighted to have three amazing software companies to join us and to tell us about their products. And we're going to hopefully demonstrate how all of them work together to create this, seamless workflow that you can use at early stages, which I think is particularly important for architects who are trying to grapple with all this new software that's out there and actually trying to work out how they actually link together. So the aim of this webinar, and we will be doing more in the future, is to look at actually how do we link this stuff together? How do we get from early stage kind of ideation to presentation tools? And I'm delighted to have three amazing companies here. I'm going to kick off if you can do quick introductions of yourself. So maybe Eric, if I can just start with you.
Sure, thanks for having us. My name is Eric. I'm from the Hektar team. So we're a Gothenburg-based company in Sweden, and we're building Hektar, which is an early stage planning and design tool. So like early stage designs and volume sketches for architecture and urban planning.
Amazing. George, do you want to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Alistair. Hi, everyone. My name is George. I'm the CEO of Xfigura. We're an architecture ideation platform. So one-stop shop for all of the fun image and 3D generations tools out there. I'm an architect by training and originally Italian, and happy to be here.
Great, thank you. And Kitai.
Hey everyone, I'm Kitai Kim. I'm one of the co-founders of Foveate. Foveate is an interactive presentation and collaboration software for architects and designers to share their ideas.
Excellent. Okay, right. So I'm going to dive straight in quite quickly. So I'm going to share my screen just very quickly, just to give a little bit of context. If I go to here, yeah, right. Architecture Superflow. So we're looking at workflows in particular. So today we're going to be looking at tech stacks and workflows, and we're going to look particularly at Hektar, Xfigura, and Foveate, which I'm really looking forward to. I've got discussion at the end here and questions as well. But if you've got questions throughout the session, please ask them, because we can ask them throughout the session here. Through where we'll get the comments will come up, and I'll see them and I'll share them with the speakers. So yeah. Questions from the audience anytime, just let me know. I'd be really pleased to try and help and answer those questions. So we're talking about tech stacks, and I wasn't necessarily familiar with the word tech stack until a little while ago, but what we're talking about is combinations of software, or a set of software that you might have in-house. How do you link them together? What do they need in terms of connectivity? And that's to do with interoperability between software. So typically with kind of 3D modeling, we're talking about maybe IFC or Revit files or 3D DWGs or 3DM files for Rhino, things like that, and how we move between those flows. And this diagram came out of the generative report that I've done, generative design report, looking at actually lots of these different tools can link together and do different things and lead us to different outputs. And some of this came out of, this is a diagram I had from last year at Next Build, which I shared. The idea behind this was, on the ad marketplace, we've got all this amazing software out there. And the idea was actually, with all that new software, you can start to combine them in different ways. And we can start to look at different software, how they link together, move from RIBA stage or AIA work stages or whatever system you're using throughout those stages, and link together with different software. So this is a key area for me to look into more, and particularly, as I say, with the ad marketplace, to say actually all the software that we're going to talk about today is on the marketplace. When people go there, it's going to help them ideally find out how they work together. So for today, we're going to look at Hektar, Xfigura, and Foveate. So very broadly, Hektar is doing a generative design exercise on massing and feasibility stage work. And then Xfigura is going to look at using AI to generate some amazing renders from that massing and how that can go together. And we'll run through it in detail. And then Foveate is a tool to actually present all of those. So what I think here is a really amazing opportunity for clients is to be able to see what their architecture teams or their design teams are producing, and being able to experience that in a very different way to, a PDF or a plan drawing or, a block diagram or something like that. The idea is to use this new technology to lead us to better outcomes at the end. So I'm going to pass over to you, Eric, to give us a little introduction about Hectare. And yeah, we'd love to find out more about it. And if you want to share a screen, let me know and I'll put that up.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much. So yeah, let's have a look at Hectare to begin with. I think I'll actually go ahead and share my screen if that's okay.
Sure.
I'll do a quick demonstration of what Hectare is and how it works and what it can be used for. Let me just take the entire screen. So now hopefully it will show up for you, Alistair.
Yeah, I think I have to remove my one first.
Are we live? Yeah, there we go.
That's it. Yeah, that's perfect.
All right, cool. So this is Hectare. So when you log in to Hectare the first time, this is kind of what you will see. You'll probably have fewer projects than I have, but it's a dashboard with different, we call them projects, but it's actually like site studies. And I think I'll actually go ahead and demonstrate how you can create a new project in Hectare and kind of the type of studies you can do in Hectare. So when you click new project, you will actually go straight into a map view. And like the TV chef I am, I actually prepared a site that I think is probably suitable for this exercise. So you have the map, and you have a lot of different layers with different kinds of data that you can add to the map. And I think in this particular example, it might be useful to have a look at the property boundaries. So let's say that I'm a property developer, for example, and I'm interested in this piece of land over here. I would go into the map and I would say that I can name my project, and I can just go ahead and kind of sketch out the site boundary that I'm interested in exploring. And right now I'm doing it a little bit quick and dirty here, but let's say this is the site. So what happens is that it creates a project with that site, and all the context buildings gets included as well, and all the data around the site also gets included. And you can choose your context radius and so on. But let's say that we are happy with the default settings. We can just go ahead and make a project out of this. So once you have done that, you can see that the context buildings that I included, they are now inside my my project window. And the next step in Hectare is to kind of define some boundary conditions for the site. So you can do that in different ways. You can either use what we call the site tools down here. So you can, for example, say that we have a road over here, so we would like to include that in our study. So we can add that back into the site. And what it does is actually that it divides the site into different parcel or different, we call them generative areas. But basically what it is it creates different areas where you can specify different requirements. So I think we can for example divide the site into 3 different areas, and maybe we would like to have like a green area over here, for example, so we can add in a park at this part of the site. And maybe we want to try out some different types of buildings for the different parts of the site. So we want to have slab buildings over here, and maybe we want to have some point houses in the middle and some other slab buildings on this part of the site with a little bit higher exploitation. So we can kind of like adjust some sliders just to get a feeling for how densely the buildings will be placed for each part of the site. And then we hit generate. And the whole idea behind Hectare is that it should be quite iterative and that it should be easy to create something and go back and go forth and kind of change the design as you gain more insights. So as you can see, I've created three options here. It's still creating the images, but we can go ahead and have a look at this first one here. So what happens is that it creates a design scenario with, and I think the exploitation on this parcel is probably a little bit too high because the the point house is way higher than I expected. But this is kind of where the nice part with Hectare is that you can go ahead and have a look at the data and see that does this make sense for this particular site? And if you're not happy with it, you can just go back and you can say that actually I would like to say that I only want to have at maximum 6 or 7 stories for this part, and you hit the button again, and it will come up with new design suggestions. Yeah, and then you get all the data. You can do some quick sunlight analysis. You can, of course, export and import data, so you can take it to the next step in the workflow that Alistair will show. And yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for this super short demonstration.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. And I've been using it a little bit recently, and it's a really nice interface. It's really clean. It's nice for architects to use because it's really well designed, and I've really enjoyed that part of it. Do we want to anyone? I'm thinking of anyone else here. Does anyone ask Eric any questions before we move on to something else? I don't know if there's any thoughts on that.
Eric,
Is it?
Sorry,
sure.
Eric. Hi.
Hi.
Just wondering about, can you, is there any limitations with the maps that you can bring into Hectare? So, like, assume we can grab like ordnance survey maps or information from different countries, different places like that. Have you seen any issues with that, or is that all pretty seamless?
That's a really great question, actually. And we're working a lot with the map data right now, the GIS data, because we see that a lot of people actually think that that's a super valuable thing to have this early on in the project. So what we're doing right now is that we're actually doing quite a big work package where we're like mapping out most of the GIS services that we have in Europe. So what we want to do is that we want to have as much out of the box as possible, and then we also want the user to be able to kind of like upload their own data. So we're using a lot of open data, so VMS and VMTS services that we can just bring into the map. It's all based on different regions and different countries, but we want to have as much out of the box as possible, and then on top of that, being able to append the data with your own data sets or DXF and PDF files, and also images, just to be able to kind of like understand the site better.
Great. Sounds great.
I had a quick question. What type of like buildings is this kind of the standard module that you're using is relating to? Are these residential units, commercial offices, or we can customize that?
Also, great question. So we're focusing on residential development. So, but we have a few different modules. We have for single family housing and we have for multifamily housing. What we want to do is to bring everything together into one kind of like one super module, because that's usually the case that maybe for one single project you might have certain part of the project where you want to do single family housing and different part where you want to do, and also for commercial real estate you want to be able to combine, and that's what we're striving for. So right now it's a bit like split up into different modules, but in the future it will be all included in one mega package where you can do everything in one project.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I had a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
Eric.
Sure.
I mean, to me, great product. Super
Thanks.
interesting to see kind of like how you're taking kind of the GIS steps that architects have to do, but are usually stuck in ArcGIS or kind of another software they're not really used to. But I also feel like maybe this could be really great for cities or kind of more regulatory bodies and in-house urban planners to use, because I'm just imagining it's so hard for a city to permit a lot of these constructions to take place. Something like Hectare, I feel like gives them kind of a dashboard into perhaps all these different projects happening within the city and how they're interrelated. I think with a lot of architects, we're kind of building in a vacuum. Like we build in like within our own 9-block radius, the one surrounding building next door, but then oftentimes we don't see beyond that because it's not within our scope. But for urban planners, that's their whole job, right? So have you thought about that at all, and like maybe getting this into cities' hands?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really interesting thing that you mentioned that. So we actually do have quite a few municipalities, especially in Sweden, that are using Hectare right now, especially for like the planning stage when they create detailed plans. So they use Hectare to kind of like iterate different designs and build detailed plans based on that. And I think you kind of pinpoint the issue quite well there, that it's also like segregated and like split up into different processes. And I mean, one software won't solve it all, but I think it's a good step to be able to like and also what we're doing today, like showing these kind of workflows, like where data can flow seamlessly between different softwares. I think that's super strong, and it's definitely the future. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And just on that, what I would say is that you can export the information out from there into Rhino, and then you can start manipulating that, that massing in more detail if you want to in that environment, which obviously gives you a lot of control over, the design, but all of the data, all of the metrics are all in Hectare, and that can be exported as well as a CSV. Is that right? Am I right? I think I'm right.
Yeah,
or an Excel
you can
document.
export it in an Excel format or a CSV
Yeah.
format, and then you can export the 3D model itself as well. And actually, would it be okay if I share a link to the project that I just created to the
Yes,
chat,
please
so
do.
people can go in and have a look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. You should be able to put it in the comments and people will see that. And I will share it as well on Instagram as well, because there's a few people watching there, which is nice. Okay, I'm going to move us on to the next one. So George from Xfigura is going to talk to us now. Do you want to share your screen, George? Is that going to be the best thing for you?
Sounds great.
Okay, all right. Just share your screen and I will take my one out of the way and move on to that one. Okay, great. Thanks. There you go.
All right. Yeah, thanks so much. I guess after exporting to Rhino or screenshotting from Hectare or taking a massing model, we'll shift into the generative AI world. So Xfigura is conceived as a 2D and 3D AI sandbox. It's intended for collaborative design. It's those early concept stages. There's a lot of noise out there of different models, of different tools, of upscaling. What do we do? And so what we thought is to really package everything in these early stages all into one place, into simple, shareable, workable canvas. So I'll just give you guys a little glimpse into what we've been building. We just recently launched and we have a lot of new features. We've gotten feedback over the last few months and that we're going to integrate in the next few weeks. So the common ones obviously are text to image, but the bigger use cases really come from an image to image perspective. Some offices use these for actual renders. You can convert sketches, you can convert screenshots into workable renders, in-paint in these and change specific parts. So this idea of control is really essential for us. What we're starting to work more into, which is part of the core of what we're looking to offer, is this 3D world. Today it's a mesh, tomorrow it won't be a mesh. So you can actually convert single images into mesh, these kind of more intricate shapes, which you could use in that ideation, that exploratory phase. You can export these as OBJ models and so on. So communities, it's been great to see some results, and we go from image, sketch generation, sketch to image, infinite canvas. Security is a priority for us. We're integrating LoRa training. For those who know what that is, it permits you to do a style transfer. So if you have documents or images or an aesthetic from your office, you could train it and then keep that, secure documentation and train, so on. There could be someone who's really good at sketches and you train a data set on that person's sketches so you can kind of iterate and work in a fun, exciting way. I'll give you guys a quick preview into how this works, just very briefly. Similar to Hectare, we have this project page. It's intended to kind of replicate that Figma, that Miro, this infinite canvas workflow. And so just to give you a preview of this canvas, these are documents you can obviously share with your team. And this is kind of a preview of some of those image generations. So the top priority, let's say the top toolbar which we've created, is this model selection. So what we do every few days, we add new models every week or so. And so you have the choice to use the best models that are out there. Ideogram, Flux is a big one, SD3, SD3 large, and so on. We have a lot more coming out. Within each model, you then have, for advanced users, you can obviously prompt, you can generate an image, and you can choose things like LoRa models or have those advanced settings that some people are more comfortable with, some people maybe might be less comfortable with. You don't actually have to test those out. And I'll just compare that same prompt, for example, on Ideogram to give you a comparison. Oh, and let me go back. This is the usual demo effect. So the first is the text to image tab. The second one here is the image to image tab, which is really that useful point. So we can preview an image. This is the one I just generated. You can drag it in, decide how to change that image and have control over it. If you have a series of images, you can then choose to in-paint within certain regions. I want to change this. I want to change trees or facades or doors. So this in-painting feature is also very useful. The third one, the third toolbar is this upscaling, which lots of architects find really useful. Could we upscale an Enscape view? Could we upscale these images or make it presentable? And so for now, we have the single model. We're adding Magnific. We're adding other models in this all in one place. So you can upscale by 6, by 8, you name it. The last exciting one is the 3D one. So you could drag and drop that image again, or simply from your toolbar, you can click on an image and click on this the 3D button right there. It shows up with the model, and then in one click, you can generate a 3D model. Just to give you a little glimpse, some results are more or less successful. This is very much an emerging space. However, you have the choice to choose from the latest models that are out there. So you can preview your model. This is one I did earlier today. From that single image, you have a workable geometry, which you can then obviously export in, for now, 2 formats, but that's going to expand and change. Hope that gives you Xfigura in a nutshell, and happy to take any questions.
I mean, it's amazing. It is amazing what you've built there, and just putting it all together into one place is so helpful, because there are a lot of architects that I speak to are like, we want to do stuff around our images, but we want to protect our IP, and we have a signature style, but we just don't know how to do it or where to start. So you've given them that environment and that space, which I think is really excellent. I'll hand over to others if they want to ask any questions about this.
George, I just sorry, Evan. Let me just, George. I thought it was great, mate. As a product, like you've just packed so much into it. Yeah, I was kind of blown away really with when I compare it to what we currently use for just rendering. So much flexibility and options. You made the user interface incredibly easy to use as well. Like you said, like the model engines are moving on so quickly. I don't know how you're managing to keep up just with that pace of development to get them into your product. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting stuck in with it. The architects will love it.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
I think
Yeah,
you
I
might be
don't really
on.
have a question, but just amazing product, and I really love the image to 3D feature. I think that's super strong, and also like being able to maybe edit that model in the future as well, and like getting new, like creating that kind of iterative workflow as well. I think that's amazing and super strong.
Maybe we'll pair the two worlds together eventually.
Yes, sir.
That's
sir.
the aim, isn't it?
This is definitely really solid. You know, I think.
Alvin, your microphone's a little bit scratchy. Is it? I'm not sure. Maybe try it again.
Okay, how about now?
It's all right.
Okay.
I think there might be an echo, Arvinder.
Let me turn off reduce my background noise. How about now?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I mean, excellent. This is amazing because it kind of brings together all the different various tools I've been using in different websites and different software in one place. So it's awesome. But kind of my main question is like, what is the main feature that you're seeing being used the most by architects? Because you have a few offerings there. And secondly, I just want to, if you could talk a little bit more about the technical aspect of the image to 3D. That sounds really interesting. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, that's great questions. So the main offering, the main use case nowadays is very much this image to image process. So lots of that's the real that's the real use case for architects. How can we, in a working scenario, keep control over our inputs, but also use AI to leverage and generate different outputs? And so that's currently the main use case. We are focusing a lot of our effort into this 3D space. However, that's if you're following this space, that's this year we'll see a lot of change in this space. And so from a 3D perspective today, it is mesh-based. You can do a text prompt only to 3D or have that image input condition that output. So it is making a prediction on what's behind it. It's just quite cutting edge technology to go from one single image, not have that contextual awareness of what's behind it, and then create a full, let's say, sometimes it's less accurate, sometimes it is. Some models we offer give texture as well, but it creates kind of that full, a full picture. So we will definitely see a lot of exciting new stuff in the next few months. This year is very much the year of video, the year of agents. A lot of demand has been for video, so we'll have another video toolbar. But next year and the coming months, we'll see a lot of exciting things in this 3D space.
Amazing. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, all right. So let me kind of do Foveate very quickly. Just share my very quick screen to start with. And I'll hand over. So yeah, so we're going to talk about Foveate, which I'm really excited about because I love the idea. I love the idea behind this and how it brings all the other things into one space and the way that you can present to other people. But I will hand over to Kitay to explain this a lot better than I can. And yeah, if you want to share your screen, just show at the bottom, and I will add that to here.
Sure. Yeah, let me just share my screen here. Let's go here. All right. Can you guys see this?
Yep. Perfect.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you for having me, Alistair. I'm Kitay Kim. I'm one of the co-founders of Foveate, which is a presentation and collaboration software for architects and designers. A little bit of context. My background is actually in experiential architecture. So I used to design large-scale, immersive public art installations, permanent outdoor artworks, touring performances, stuff like that. So a lot of Foveate's story comes from that world of how can we present our ideas that are extremely custom, very difficult to explain, have big ranges of scales, materials, interactions, animations, projections, all sorts of stuff. So that's where Foveate comes from, is trying to explain kind of ideas past regular architecture, and then having taken a step back and thought about like, okay, well, how do we make this usable for everyone? So Foveate is a browser-based presentation software. So the idea is that it's kind of like a simple NVIDIA Omniverse, if people are familiar. Something that I noticed while working in the industry is we use so many different softwares as architects: Rhino, Revit, SketchUp, Grasshopper, Vectorworks, ArchiCAD, 3ds Max for ArchViz, and then kind of your more traditional 3D modeling apps. But one thing I realized is, when I'm working on these projects, I ended up doing a lot of work in the CAD applications, but then when I have to share that with my PM or my principal or with the client, I ended up just having to take a whole bunch of screenshots and renders and maybe video, and then put that into an InDesign deck or PowerPoint deck usually, and present that to a client. And it kind of made me realize that if you count the hours that one spends doing that kind of work, they actually are spending way more time building and formatting this PDF than they are actually doing the designing. And that just didn't seem right to me. And then COVID happened. It was kind of like, oh, wait, maybe us architects, we totally lack remote working tools that allow us to collaborate on a presentation, which we do all the time. Think RFPs, design reviews, client meetings, internal meetings. So how can we make something that helps replace PowerPoint in design to very flat, static, board-like presentation software that are not collaborative and are not always up to date? So that's what Foveate is in a nutshell. I'll show you guys here. Is we kind of took our cues from software like Google Slides, and then also Unreal. I'm a big Unreal fan. I introduced it to my studio back in 2016, I think. But then, how can we make a very simple real-time 3D experience that anybody can use very easily? So I'll show you an example that's kind of more in one of my older workflows, which was more for the events world. So this is Coachella. This is the Sahara tent. So this is a model from SketchUp, and Foveate is designed to be a real-time 3D tool that you can just invite your teammates to. So I'll invite one of my teammates here, and then be able to present and play back a full 3D CAD experience, just like PowerPoint. Someone could just use these arrow keys here and use it like a slide deck. So instead of 2D slides, what we have are called moments. And moments are these 3D positions in space that have like a camera point of view, annotations here, a timestamp of who made it. They can link to things. They can embed data within them. And then people can collaboratively work on these and keep on uploading their models together. So, I love Xfigura and Hectare because I'm just looking at these and imagining, oh, you could produce all sorts of 3D assets, whether they're buildings, parts of cities, scale figures, and then assemble them in something like Foveate. So that was really kind of the idea. Is early on we saw a lot of these generative AI tools coming out, and we were like, wait a minute, we still are going to need a way to present these ideas in a way that non-technical stakeholders can understand. So my classic example is like, imagine your mom, and she's redoing her house, right? Renovating, let's say, her kitchen, which my mom actually did. And she would have to ask the contractors for screenshots of what the kitchen was going to look like every single day because they're doing all these design changes. And she has no idea what 10 feet looks like, right? She doesn't know what like slate stone actually looks like until she sees the sample. But the idea with something like Foveate is it's kind of like a virtual maquette, like a physical model that you built for somebody, and giving them that experience remotely. So at Foveate, you can attach things like renders to the different points of view in space. So as you give someone an interactive walkthrough, they can see your high quality AI renders, for example, and be able to go on a journey throughout their space. So now if we go to like a top view, we can also attach PDFs. So, we have drawings and things like that, but now we can actually give them spatial context. So someone can understand, where is this drawing within this model? How big is 29 feet really? Like, how does that feel when there's a scale figure inside? And let's say you have for multimedia, it's like, well, how could you play a video texture? I know I worked a lot with LED walls, Archimedia facades, projections and stuff like that. And how can you just be able to export a model out of SketchUp and then be able to play a video texture on it seamlessly? So that's more for folks in the events world, but that's kind of how it works in a nutshell. How can you link to products? So if we want to talk about this painting, do a design review, I have a link here that goes to a different painting that we could put here as well. And then in this scene, I don't have a embed, but for example, I could paste in embed from a Miro board. So we could have a full Miro board within a Foveate scene as well. So that's a very simple overview, the kind of the quick and dirty. But yeah, very much the idea is how can we help architects and designers basically get over this hidden cost, which is the cost of presentations, right? Like BIM is a huge topic that's on everyone's minds all the time. But if you think about it, and I was this guy, I was the junior architect designer who was doing the work in the 3D modeling software and building the presentations, and realizing that I'm my most creative when I'm actually modeling, when I'm doing the design work. It's not when I'm adding page numbers to an InDesign deck or, rearranging text, relinking renders. Like, let's say, I'm working with George and we just made 20 new renders 10 hours before this presentation is due. Now I have to go back into InDesign, let's say, and then re-put in all those renders, right? It's a ton of work that nobody really thinks about. But I think that's one thing we can really innovate on is how can we help architects and designers do better presentations, win more RFPs, and ultimately save time and communicate their ideas in a much more intuitive way that clients can actually interact with and then fall in love with.
Yeah, and I think that it's super powerful, and I've been using it today to do the little demo I'm going to show after this, and there's so many things you can put in here and be really inventive with it. And like what I've done with it is fairly like, there's a model, there's a view, but you can add a PDF in there, so the documentation or a report, like say you can have Miro boards in there. The amount of information you communicate to the end user, to whoever that is, more likely the client, isn't it, or possibly even like a public consultation. There's so much information you can give them, and it isn't just a flat, here's a printed board with just some images and text on it. You communicate so much more, and you could see real value in that, I think. I'll pass it over to the others to ask any questions they might have.
Sorry if my mic is still sounding weird.
No, it sounds good.
No, you're all right, mate.
So what are the integrations with like SketchUp or Revit are currently available for your software? Could you talk a bit more about that workflow?
Sure. So we do have an extension for SketchUp. We were part of their 0 to 60 challenge last year, so they invited us to work with them, make a SketchUp extension, so you can seamlessly upload and update a scene from SketchUp, and it takes all your SketchUp cameras and puts them in Foveate. Creates the moments, our slide system. But then for all the other software, all you have to do is export an FBX or a GLTF or point cloud. Like Foveate accepts all sorts of 3D, 2D, audio, video formats. So kind of our position is everything that should go in a PowerPoint should also go in a Foveate scene plus 3D. And we typically like people using a .glb, which is the binary version of a GLTF format. And for those unfamiliar, GLTF is like the web AR, VR sharing 3D file format that is open source and works everywhere. And I saw that you had that, George. So instantly I was like, dang, we should make a tutorial that's like Xfigura renders 3D model into a Foveate scene. And Foveate uses that file format because it renders everything in PBR. So we have a full post-processing stack similar to Unreal or Unity, ambient occlusion, bloom, depth of field, chromatic aberration, vignetting, like all the stuff that makes 3D feel real is in Foveate and just takes your spatial idea and, no offense to the CAD apps, but like an ugly CAD wireframe, right? And then turns that into a more beautiful, presentable 3D format that clients can just kind of look at and get.
Yeah, absolutely. I've really loved using it today. It's been really great. And it's kind of a revelation, really, to think, we're not constrained by trying to present 3D model. Because I remember we used to have meetings where like, okay, we need to show them the model. How are we going to do it? We need Revit. Are we going to have a connection? Will we be able to show that to them? And it's like, it's the worst possible software to do a demo in. It just doesn't work.
I was going to add to that, Alistair, just in terms of like latency, in the sense that, if we pull all our information into Foveate, have you come across any latency problems, or do you think that's something we would need to consider? Just I'm just thinking about loading a lot of data into that program. It's obviously through a web interface, and how that translates for the users on the endpoint.
Yeah, so actually we compress and optimize files as they're uploading. So that's another benefit to this file format .gltf is that it allows us to basically reduce all the draw calls that would normally come with a giant model, and then serve it in a way that is a much smaller file size. So for a client on a weaker machine, they can just open it up and it'll work. I pasted this link in the chat so people could try it. But with Foveate, we do all the stuff for the architects, because architects don't need to know how to optimize, right? Like that should just be handled out of the box. You shouldn't even think about it. When you upload an image to Google Slides or Google Docs, they're automatically taking that image and they're compressing it so everybody else can see it as fast as possible. And you just have no idea as the user, right? So that's something that we do as well. And then with Foveate, it's all, it stays on that static link that you upload to, so that you can keep on overwriting your scene with the newer version of your model. And that for the client, the link will stay the same. So they come back 2 days later, you've done design changes in Revit or SketchUp, whatever, you replace your file, and then boom, they have the new one. So, I had a client call me today, an architect, and he was saying that his PM sent up red lines over the weekend and was like, we want a new design for a presentation on Monday. He was like, oh my God, there's just no way that I'm going to be able to make the design changes in Revit, create new drawings, take new Enscape renders, put it into the InDesign deck, update all the pages, export it as a PDF, compress and optimize that for the presentation. And then I was saying to him, yeah, you could just export the model out of Revit and share on a Foveate link. And he was like, yes, we need to do this because it's going to save you so much time, right? Like, why do we need to do all those other steps for a little interim meeting? You should just be able to update your file. It automatically updates your presentation. The client opens the same link they saw last week, and they're ready to go. They're walking through it in 3D. There's no questions on their end of, how big is this? Can I see it from the back, right? All that they can take care of on their own.
Okay. Right. So hopefully you can see my screen here. So I'm just thinking, I know that Eric needs to leave by 1:45, so we've got a couple of minutes, but this is, so I've been using all this software today, and this is purely like maybe, I'm going to say about an hour of my time roughly. So I was using Hectare, created a 3D model in that. I then use Xfigura to do some very quick renders based on that model line geometry. So it's very simple. And then I've used Foveate to just kind of get all the stuff that's been created into there and mess around with it. It's super basic, so that you can see this model is just a very bland gray model, but hopefully it shows you the principles of how this can move and work together. So you can see in here this model. I've done this rendering, taken from that the 3D geometry, and then from here I can move to another scene. And from here I created a very quick video of Hectare. It's a little bit jumpy, unfortunately, because of bandwidth, I think, but it shows you that you can send this to a client and show them this video, and it's all held within Foveate, and they can explore that and move around it and see that video. And as we talked about earlier, you can add music to this if you want to, PDFs, you can put images and things like that, and then you can move around again with the model and see another elevation and another rendering attached to that. So the kind of the power of this is really mind-blowing, I think, given that what we do currently is lots of separate stuff. As you say, Kitai, you kind of put it all into a PDF or a PowerPoint, and it takes usually junior members of teams hours to do this, and commonly results in them having to stay later and manage all of that. Whereas actually we could put it all in here. It's all separate, but it's all combined in one really great environment. So for early stage design, where you say we need to have a concept and we need to present that to a client, but also have the metrics behind it. So kind of all of the unit mixes that you'd have, you can do all of that, measure it all out in Hectare, and it can give you all that information, and then use Xfigura to actually kind of imagine what that building can look like, and then present it, send this to a client. This isn't super advanced in terms of what I've done today, here, but it's taken me an hour, and I've got something that I could send to, a potential client really quickly to say, look, we've had an idea. This is what we're thinking of. Get that feedback, move forward with the project ideally, or get their feedback and they can maybe change the direction. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone's got any quick comments, or Eric, I know you need to leave at all. Do you want to add anything finally before you do?
No, that's all right. I can stay for a couple more minutes. I had one question for you for Xfigura, or actually for Foveate, sorry, about I think you briefly mentioned VR and AR, and I feel like that's like a really great application as well when you want to give this like immersive experience. Is that something that you can use as well?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's actually where I got my start. Is when I was building these public art installations, I was able to double our studio's win rate by using VR presentations in Unreal. But the problem was I had to go travel to a client with a big beefy computer, Unreal 4, a Vive Pro, and then give them that linear walkthrough. And then COVID happened. I realized if I can't fly there, we're back to square one. So then I worked in WebXR, VR on the web. But unfortunately at that time, this is back in 2021, 22, the VR headsets just were not good enough. It was the Quest 2, it was a WebGL based. And we decided to backtrack and do 3D on the web. And that's kind of how Foveate came to be, is let's just solve the distribution problem of everybody has a computer or an iPad or something. How do we get 3D to their devices? Now that Web GPU is coming out and there's new headsets coming out from Sony, Meta's new headset, Apple, VR is definitely back on our mind. And that's something we definitely want to do. We're just kind of waiting for folks building the hardware to make it good enough that we can run a Foveate scene with the post-processing, with all this other media, and then it just works out of the box. Right now, the UX, the friction is still a little bit too high for the user to really benefit, and nobody really has a headset. But we're hoping that changes in the next couple of years.
No, I can just see that that's a super nice last step of this process. You go from having nothing to creating something. You do the renders and you get the scene, and then you also have the VR experience on top of that.
That's the dream, right? That's where you want to go.
That's the dream.
Yeah.
And the next step is you add generative AI, and then you can change things in real time.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know yet. I'm happy that guys like you are doing the Gen AI, right? Because I see what you guys are doing with it, and our position with Foveate is that it should be the presentation and collaboration layer. We're dang, there's Hectare and Xfigura and Varus. You guys are all doing such crazy good AI work that we're let's have them create all this media, and then we're just the place where people kind of format it all together. Maybe the AI is more about creating the text that narrates it, or doing text to speech, so your moments become like a human voice. My idea would be, let's say you're working at Foster and Partners and you train it on Norman Foster's voice. All of a sudden, when you're experiencing a Foveate presentation, every single moment can be read to you in his voice. So as the client, you're like, oh, wow, I feel like Norman Foster is speaking to me, explaining the design. That's where we kind of see AI fitting into Foveate.
Wow.
Cool.
Wow. Amazing. There's amazing opportunities there, aren't there? To really explore that would be quite something. Okay, I'm going to share my screen very briefly, just to talk about a little bit of what I'm doing. So we've talked a little bit about generative design and my generative design report. I'm just doing the final revisions to that, and it should be out towards the end of this week. So that is for those of you who are watching and interested in this. Reach out and let me know. But there's a link there to a discount code as well, which could be quite useful. And what else we got here? This is just to kind of the finish off. So in terms of all of this software that we've talked about today is on the ad marketplace. So you can see them there, and you can explore nearly 200 other softwares on there. So that's at ad.io. Generative design report's coming out soon. I'm doing practice 12 and 6-month tech updates as well for those practices that want to keep up to date with what's out there. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to me at the email below, and I will do my best to help. I want to say thanks to everyone for attending today. Has anyone got any final questions or thoughts that they wanted to ask anyone while we're still here?
Yeah, loads, but I'll contact you individually, mainly around the tech stack and the pricing of it all. But yeah, I'll reach out individually. Thank you all. It's great.
Yeah. And I really appreciate your time, and I think it's excellent what you're producing. So if there's anything I can do to help you promote what you're doing, reach a bigger audience, then I'm 100% there to help. The ad marketplace is one aspect of that, but obviously there are other routes to that as well, whether it's at events or speak at events or reaching out to architects that we do consultancy work with. So yeah, here to help. I've put all of your links in the comments. So if people are watching this on catch up, that should be there on YouTube and it should be on LinkedIn, but I will double check. But all of those websites are there for you to explore. And yeah, I want to say thanks very much. I really appreciate it. And that's been really excellent. So thank you.
Thank you, Alistair, for organizing all this and, wrangling us all together.
He's good at that.
Appreciate this. Yes. Thanks, Alistair. Thanks, everyone.
It's a pleasure. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I will end the stream. You're welcome to hang on afterwards and we can have a catch up afterwards. But if you want to disappear, that's fine as well. And to the audience, people watching, thanks very much. Any questions, come back to all of the speakers here. You'll find them on LinkedIn or you'll find them on, the website links and things. So reach out to them and find out more. But thanks very much. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.